Welcome to Jazz Piano Daily, number 120. Today I am going to share with you the piano technique that really changed my playing forever. Let me shift over to the sheet music and we can dive into this more. All right, so first of all, I said piano technique, not jazz piano technique, in that this technique works no matter what style you're playing. Now, when I was, just a quick little story if you don't mind, when I was first getting started and playing jazz piano in middle school and in high school, playing in the bands, I remember playing on an upright piano. And I would have to be playing with, like horn players and electric bass and drums and all of that behind me. So I really had to bang a lot, in order to be heard when I was playing. I remember my fingernails being black and cracked because I would play so heavy. So what ended up happening is I ended up hurting my arms, right? I remember wearing braces because my arms just couldn't take all of that impact, all of the time. So as years went by, I went to college and started working on my technique more, but then went to this Suzuki training, and this wonderful teacher, Jean Lukey, if you happen to see this, Jean, hello, and thank you for this technique. She showed me what's called the grab technique, or she called it the grab technique, and I'm going to show it to you right now. So the easiest way of understanding the grab technique is to take just a tissue, regular old tissue. You could use paper towel or whatever, but a tissue is best because it's nice and light, all right? You just place it over the keys, and it's really just grabbing the tissue off. So what you're trying to do is grab in, all right? So this is the motion to play the piano. Up to this point, I was doing this motion, right? A lot of this, banging, right? A lot of downward force motion. Okay? So I was thinking more vertically, up and down, like I play. I have to bring my hand down in order to, make the sound at the instrument, versus a horizontal, energy, right? So rather than thinking about going left and right with my energy, I was thinking everything was going down. And when I was going down like that, I would just go down and just kind of like lock my fingers, and then my hand would be stiff. And guess what happens? All that energy transfers right up your arm. Right? So if you're finding that you're having some wrist or arm pain, that could very well be it. So do this to start. Start with the tissue. And then here's the thing. You can circumvent any of these, suggestions, but the results are going to vary for you. So if you want the best results, then really take the time. I remember taking hours to like really focus on my technique. I remember having a video camera right there, right on my back, so I would see exactly like how am I sitting and all of this. And it would really allow me, and I would analyze my playing. So depending on how well you want your technique to be at the piano, you might have to really dig into this. This isn't just as easy as like, oh, in 5 minutes, oh, okay, I got the grab technique. You got to work at it. All right, so first of all, you start with the tissues, and you just kind of grab off like that, just so you can kind of feel that. And then what you're trying to do is this, just kind of grabbing like that at the notes. You do it with the left hand, just grabbing at those notes. Then when you grab, you want to grab and stick. And the best way of grabbing and stick is to hit like a chord. So like if I took like a C major triad, notice my fingers are out, and then I come in, I grab, and I stick, right? So notice what's happening here. Notice if you look right here at my arm, I am not doing this in order to be able to play that chord, right? I'm not doing this. I'm not lifting up my hands and coming down. I can stay right there, and I'm just grabbing in with my fingers. For a scale, does the same thing. Just grabbing in. Now what I did here in the sheet music is just put down the blues chords that we've been working on, and just giving you some scales to play on top of that. So notice first of all the chords, grabbing in at the chord, right? Grabbing in at that B flat 7, grabbing in at that E flat 7. It's not this. Now, does that mean that you will never do this? No, you will, okay? And the more that you practice this grab technique in isolation, meaning that you really focus on chords or focus on scales, arpeggios, thinking about the grab technique before just trying to like bring it into your playing. The more that you do that, the easier it's going to start to just flow into your playing, all right? So my suggestion would be do like, all 12 of your major scales really slowly, thinking about this grab technique, grabbing in at each of those notes. One octave, hands together, and you hear the nice big tone that you can get. You could do like If you want, if you're a little bit more advanced, you know, do broken thirds like that. You know, keep it nice and slow, and you can do the same thing with chords, even if it's just triads, whatever, right? It's a great way of also practicing, you know, like let's say that, you know, you want to do all of your major triads in inversions. Maybe you've never done that before. D flat. D. E flat, right? You know, so like it allows you to like kind of go through and practice some of that harmonic theory that you might be a little bit, you know, you might not be 100% on some of that harmonic theory, so you can kind of join this along with this grab technique. All right, so anyway, B flat's Mixolydian scale, you know, these notes. Fingering for this is 2, 1, 2. And you notice how I'm grabbing at each one of those notes. You don't have to do this in time like this. You don't have to skip from there all the way down here. I like this in the F minor to the E. Kind of uses the top notes of the E altered scale. Okay? You don't have to play these chords or these scales. You could choose your own stuff. I'm just giving you something here, you know, that you can kind of sink your teeth into. Like I said, though, if you're new to the grab technique, I would start just with your major scales. Literally, C major scale. Nice and slow. See how I'm grabbing? So see the chords, I kind of bring my fingers out, grab in. Now, am I always going to do this kind of motion in order to play every chord? No, it's going to look ridiculous, so I'm not going to do that. But for right now, I'm going to accentualize this, you know, is that even a word? Anyway, I'm going to over concentrate on putting them out, grabbing in, right? I could play, you know, different scales here, different improvisation. I could do my chromatic scale. I could even just try playing random notes, okay? It's kind of like play that C7 chord. Right? But still thinking about that grabbing. Now, as I go faster, obviously I need to have practiced that grab technique more and more in order to like really be able to play that faster. So you want to start slow. Start slow, and really all that you're thinking about is grabbing in, grabbing and sticking at the notes. Notice for the thumb, it's to the side. Same thing for the left hand, to the side, grabbing. And really, this is one of the best things to start with, 5-finger scale. And I like to kind of move my elbow around here, you know, especially right now when I'm focusing on technique. Why? Because I want this whole mechanism to be as loose as possible. And if someone comes by and lifts up your arm, it should literally be loose like that. Your wrist should be loose. So here, I'm using the weight of my arm and gravity to make all of this sound. Okay? That is a much better approach than this. Banging, banging, banging. And then what happens, you bang, and then like your nail gets underneath like that, cracks. Oh, it's nasty. Or the karate chop with the pinky. Any of you do that? I used to do that, the karate chop with the pinky. And then the problem is you'll see some people play, especially on YouTube, you know, they're like, they'll do that kind of stuff where they're like, you know, hitting the side of their hand, and you think, oh, that's the way I'm supposed to play. Well, you know what, that technique works for them, but that's not the best technique to have. You're going to be very careful when looking at other players playing, thinking, especially even if they're good players, right? Because just because they're a good player doesn't mean that necessarily they have good technique. You have no idea what's going on off camera. You know, are their arms in pain? Can they only play so much? Do they suffer from carpal tunnel? you know, except for like when you're watching the great players, you know, Keith Jarrett, Brad Meldau, you know, Rubenstein. I mean, these are players that have like a massive amount of technique. But also remember, even like someone like Keith Jarrett, where he'll be like doing this kind of stuff, and he's like, you know, like moving his arms around. You got to be careful not to mimic that technique because it might work for him. And technique also comes down to body type, to be honest with you, where like, you know, his elasticity in his arms might be different than yours. So you can't just simply look at someone else's technique and say, oh, they're doing that, so I can do that, right? It might not work for you. So anyway, play around with this grab technique. Use the tissue, just kind of grab at those. Try grabbing at these chords, right? Nice way to practice the chords. You could throw some scales on top of that. Like I said, there was the Mixolydian scale. Right? And then when you get to the F minor, and quite frankly, you can do whatever scales you want. You don't have to do these. It's just something for you to practice, and so I wrote something out for it. So anyway, have fun with that. I'll see you guys in the next lesson. To get the first 45 pages of music for free, just go back to jazzpianodaily.com. If you liked the video, please be sure to click the like button and also subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. To watch the rest of the lessons in this series, just click on the playlist to the right of this arrow. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video.